Welcome to this video of Introduction to Music Fundamentals, where we'll be looking at the relationship between major and minor scales and why this is important. But before we do that, I want to teach you a new way of writing the circle of fifths. I've often found that students really struggle with the circle of fifths when it comes to minor scales. They're fine for major scales, but for minor scales, it's a little bit more tricky. So I want to introduce you to this new way of writing it, rather as a table rather than a circle. And let me teach you how to do that. So there are 6 important steps to follow when you are creating this version of the circle of fifths. You always start with that silly rhyme that I taught you about the sharps. Father Charles goes down and ends battle. And you're going to use the first letter of each of those words for the order of the sharps. F, C, G, D, A, E, B. Step 3 is to write this series of letters down 3 times in a row. So just look at your screen now. You'll see at the bottom that I've written them out 3 times in a row. You don't need to write them in colors. I've just written them in colors so that you can see that they're in 3s. Leave a little gap between each of them because we're going to make a table out of it. Okay, so a little gap between each F, C, G, D, A, and B, so forth. You'll see how it works now. Step 4 is on the far left-hand side for all of the F, C, G, B, D, A, B. On the left-hand side, add a little flat sign just above each of those. And on the far right-hand side, add a little sharp sign so that it looks like what your screen looks like now. On the far left-hand side, you've got flats. In the middle, nothing. On the right, sharps. Okay, flat, nothing, sharps. Then, look for the second C. It's the C that is in that section where there are no sharps or flats. Okay? So you've got F flat, C flat, G flat, D flat, A flat, E flat, B flat, F, C. That C. Underneath it, write a 0. 0. Because C major has no sharps or no flats. 0. On the right-hand side of the C, under each letter, write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 successively and put a sharp next to it. So that G major is 1 sharp, D major is 2 sharps, A major is 3 sharps. You'll see that if you look at your circle of fifths, that's exactly what it says. Okay, so we're just writing out the circle of fifths as a line rather than as a circle. On the left-hand side of the C, you're going to write 1 flat, 2 flats, 3 flats, 4 flats, and so forth, okay, until you get to 7. There are a maximum of 7 flats and a maximum of 7 sharps. Just look at your screen and you'll see how I've written it out. You'll see that under C itself, there's 0. On G, 1 sharp. On F, 1 flat. And so it moves outwards on either side, okay? That's step 5. Now, step 6 is for the minor keys, and this is where it becomes very important. Now you're going to look for the second A. So you've got F flat, C flat, G flat, D flat, A flat, E flat, B flat, F, C, G, D, A. That A, put a 0 underneath it. Okay? Look at your screen now and you'll see how I've done it. A has 0. Then on the right-hand side of the A, that means starting on E, you put 1 sharp, B has got 2 sharps, F sharp has got 3 sharps, and so forth until you get to 7 sharps. Okay, that should land up on A sharp. Then on the left-hand side of the 0, you put 1 flat, 2 flats, 3 flats, and so forth. Okay, until you land up on 7 flats, also at A flat. All right, that's how this table works. Then, just so that you can see how helpful it is, when we write it out completely, there it is on the screen. Take a look. The line that starts with the C on the 0 is for major keys, and the line where the 0 is for A is for minor keys. This tells us now if we wanted to know what the key signature for E minor is, we'd go down, look at minor, E minor, underneath the minor one has got 1 sharp. 1 sharp, and the order of the sharps is F, C, G, D, A, E, B. So if there's 1 sharp, it must be F sharp. Okay. Likewise, let's say we wanted to know what G sharp minor's key signature was. we'd look under G sharp and we see it's got 5 sharps for the minor key. The order of the sharps is F, C, G, D, A. So the key signature is F, C, G, D, A for G sharp minor. And the same is for the flats. The nice thing about this table is that it also gives us, it reminds us of the order of the sharps. If you have a look, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, B sharp. That's the exact order of the sharps. You'll see I've written order of the sharps with a little direction going that way. It also gives us the order of the flats. So look where B flat is. And if you work your way from B flat to the left, starting with B flat always, you'll get the order of the flats. So B flat is always the first flat, E flat is always the second, A flat is always the third, D flat the fourth, and so on. Okay, that gives us the order of the flats. So it's a very helpful little table and one that we'll be using quite regularly as we go on now from this course. Now, we're going to look at the relationship between major and minor scales. Major and minor scales are related like cousins. They're almost like cousins to each other. They share many things in common. Just like human beings who are related have shared DNA, where most of the DNA is almost exactly the same and only tiny bits of DNA are different, the same is true of major and minor scales. The notes of major and minor scales are almost exactly the same. In fact, for the natural minor and the major scales, their notes are exactly the same. They just start on different notes, okay? But the notes are exactly the same. So their DNA is the same. Let's have a look at the group of 8 notes that creates C major. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's a C major scale. And let's look at the different ways that these notes can be constructed or put together so that they have a succession of notes one after the other. The first one is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. 8 notes in succession. But you could also start on D. D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Also with all the notes of C major. You could also start on E or F or G, A, or B. Depending on which note you start on, you have things called modes. Okay, so C major scale has modes that are related to it. The Dorian mode starts on the letter D. The Phrygian mode on E. The Lydian mode on F. The Mixolydian mode on G. The Aeolian mode on A. And the Locrian mode on B. Now, jazz musicians will be much more familiar with modes than classical musicians because they use modes very frequently. But that's how modes work, okay? And you can use it for any key. Let's say you started on G major. G major starts G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. The Dorian mode in G major would just start on its second note. So the first note of the Dorian mode with G is A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. It also has an F sharp in it, but it starts on an A rather than on a G. Okay? So they share exactly the same notes, but they just start on a different note. So this is important. There are 8 scales all related to each other just because they share the same notes. Ionian mode is, by the way, the name for the major scale. Okay, it's sometimes called the Ionian mode, but mostly we call it the major scale. So Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. Sorry, 7, not 8. 7. All right. Now, these modes share the same notes. They are related to each other. They also share the same key signature. So any of those modes will have the same key signature. Okay, so let's go back to this. The Dorian mode, starting on D, also has no sharps or flats, so it doesn't have a key signature. The Lydian mode, starting on F, also has no sharps and flats because it's using the notes of C major. Okay, so they share the same key signature. But, and this is the important thing, is that each of those modes, even though they share the same notes, they each have a slightly different feel to them. Now, if I had a piano here, I'd be able to play some of those modes for you so that you could hear them. But I can show you the differences in the modes just by looking at the relationships between the notes. So let's look at the Ionian mode, or the major scale. You already know that the combination of tones and semitones for the major scale is tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Okay? If you look at the screen now, you'll see the piano keyboard. The distance between C and D is a tone. The distance between D and E is a tone. The distance between E and F is a semitone. See, there's no black note in between it. So we already know this sequence: tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Let's have a look at some of the other modes. Here's the Phrygian mode, for example. This is the one that starts on E, but it's also using the notes of C major. Let's have a look at its sequence of semitones and tones. You'll see straight away that the distance between E and F is just a semitone. So it starts with a semitone. Remember, the major scale started with tone, tone, and then only a semitone. But the Phrygian mode starts with a semitone. Then it gets tone, 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 semitone, tone. So the Phrygian mode is semitone, tone, 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 semitone, tone, tone. Quite different from what we had in the major scale. And then let's have a look at the Aeolian mode. Okay, this also has a different combination. It starts on A. The distance between A and B is a tone. The distance between B and C is a semitone. So the first semitone comes in on the second note. Let's have a listen to it again. Remember, the major scale is tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. The Aeolian mode is tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone. Also quite different from the major key. All right. Now, let's just consider this again. You'll remember that the Ionian mode, I told you now, is what we call the major scale. The Aeolian mode, the one that we've just looked at, is what we call the natural minor scale. All right. Now, how are these two scales related to each other in terms of an interval? So C major starts on a C, and the Aeolian mode starts on an A. So I've written them out there for you so that you can see there's a C and an A on the screen. What is the interval between the first note of the major scale and the first note of the minor scale? Let's work it out. We take the first note, that is the lowest note, okay, A, and we count it up, okay, just like we would for a normal interval. A, B, C. So from the lowest note to the highest note is a third. We know that we're dealing with a third. Is it a major third? Well, we've just learned about that in the last video. How do we work out if a third or any interval has a quality? So we take the lowest note and we write out the major scale for A major. If we look on the circle of fifths or on our new table, I'll take you to the table just so that we can see it. There's the table. A major has 3 sharps, and those sharps would be F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. Now let's go back. A major has F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, but we are working with 2 notes, A and C natural. A major has C sharp, so it's not a major third. Is C sharp higher or lower than C natural? C sharp is higher, okay? So we're actually dealing with a minor third. All right, let's have a look. I've written it out for you so that you can see. There's the A major scale. We know that it's a third, but if we compare the first note of the interval and the second note, A and C, we see that they are not the same. The major scale is C sharp, but our interval is C natural. The C natural is 1 semitone lower than the C sharp, so we are dealing with a minor third. So we know that the relationship between a major scale and a minor scale is a minor third. Okay? This is the relationship between all major and minor scales. Okay? And it helps us to work out what the key signature is. So A minor has the same key signature as C major. A minor has the same key signature as A minor. The two are related by the same key signature, and they both have no sharps or flats. Okay. There are three types of minor scales: the natural minor scale, which is the Aeolian mode, the harmonic minor, and the melodic minor. And in this video, we're only dealing with the natural minor and the harmonic minor. We've already seen the natural minor, which works like this: tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone. Okay, has all the notes that C major has, but it just starts on an A rather than on a C. The harmonic minor scale is slightly different. It has only one difference between itself and the natural minor scale. And the difference is that the seventh note is raised a semitone. That's the only difference, okay? So let's have a look at it now. I've got it up on the screen. Take a look at your screen and you'll see the harmonic minor scale. If we count the notes from the very bottom of the scale, A being 1, A, B, C, D, E, F, G is the seventh note. So we take it up a semitone. We raise it by a semitone. In this case, we have to make it G sharp. What this does is it creates a very large interval between the sixth note, which is F in this case, and the seventh note, G sharp. And that gives this scale its very interesting sound. Okay? It creates this very large interval of a tone and a semitone together. It gives it almost a Middle Eastern type of sound. Okay? This is the harmonic minor scale. For the moment, just remember this. When we are working with minor keys, the minor key is related by a minor third to the major key. And I'll show you what that really lands up being when we're on the on that very nice table that I showed you. If you look at C, okay, C for the major scales has 0 sharps and flats. You'll also see that A has 0 sharps and flats. Now, if we start on A, B, C, we get C. So it's a minor third. Both the A and the C, they have 0 sharps and flats. You can also see G major has 1 sharp. E minor has 1 sharp. Look here. E, F, G. It's a third, okay? Now, the nice thing about this table is that it just shows it to you anyway. You don't have to work it out every time. But that's what's going on in this table. It's actually done the relationship of the minor third for you so that you don't need to calculate it each time, which is why it is such a handy table. Okay. The other thing is that minor and related major and minor keys have the same key signature. So G major has 1 sharp, F sharp. E minor, its relative, also has 1 sharp, which is F sharp. But the minor key, if you're working with the harmonic minor, always has an added accidental. The seventh note of that key is always raised by 1 semitone. Okay, so the minor key has the key signature at the beginning, and its seventh note is also raised by a semitone. In the next video, we'll learn about harmonic minor scales. But for the moment, you're just going to practice with the natural minor scale and the harmonic minor scale. And that's where we end today.